Hello, my name is Juliana Bigelow, and I am a first-year MCT master's student at the University of Oslo. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about how you can use HTML and CSS to create custom stylized elements for your WebPD applications. WebPD is a compiler that takes pure data patches and allows them to be standalone web applications in which a user does not have to access the pure data software. Pure data is an open source visual audio programming language developed in the 1990s that allows users to create interactive and creative computer music applications. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's going to define the structure of your web page. It's going to create your headings, your paragraphs, and the specific elements that you're going to be using. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So while HTML is the structure, CSS is going to give you the customized, stylized elements that you want in your web application. It can be referenced in the style section of the main HTML document for your application, or more commonly, CSS can be created in a separate style sheet and then referenced in the HTML document. In the HTML, you will assign different classes to elements that you want to be styled, and then in the cascading style sheet, you are able to reference the classes of those elements and create direct parameters to create custom stylization. If you haven't had a lot of prior experience with HTML and CSS and how they work together, I have linked to some resources in the accompanying blog post to this video. I suggest you look through these resources before continuing with the blog post or continuing with this video so that you have a better basis in HTML and CSS and are more easily able to understand the material. And now I'll switch over to my screen so I can show you how to use HTML and CSS to style headings, background color, and any range sliders you may use in your WebPD web applications. So let's get started. To begin with, on the left, I have my simple synth. This is the final product that we are aiming for you to be able to create and understand after watching today's video. And on the right, I have Visual Studio Code open. This is my application in code form, and it's being served by the Live Server plugin. On the Visual Studio Code window, I have the HTML and CSS files open here in the top tab. You'll notice in the HTML file in the head section, there's a link referencing the style sheet. This tells the HTML elements to reference the styles that are placed in the CSS style sheet. To quickly go through the HTML document so that you understand what is happening, we have some headings, a paragraph, heading 2 for the subheadings of the content. And then there's some range sliders that have been inputted, as well as a button. Additionally, there is the two things that are standard in every WebPD application that you download from the compiler, the start button and the loading icon that starts when you open up the application. Now, if I go into the CSS file, I am quickly going to comment out everything, all of the styling with a backslash and a asterisk. And now if I reload the page, you're going to see why it's so important to be aware of what elements you can style. This is white with black text. You see the font has been changed, the colors have been changed, and if I uncomment and save again, you're going to see this is a much more user-friendly and more aesthetic web application. I'm now going to go through and explain how I styled each element. So to begin with, we have the body. This is styling that is going to affect everything in the body of your HTML document, which starts here and ends here. What I've done to control the body in this is I've changed the background color. You're able to change this to anything you would like. And I've changed the font family. I've also added in some padding. If I took this down to 1 pixel and saved, you'll see it gets way closer to the edge of my screen. And if I change it to 15 pixels, which is where I had it before, everything moves over a little bit. Next, if I go into my heading, a heading is an element that's already defined in HTML. So I didn't use the div ID to insinuate a class. I've just used .header. I've controlled the width, the height, and the text alignment of the headers, and then I can go in and do H1, H2, and make these different. So you can see I've colored H1, a simple synth, black, and I've colored the subheadings, frequency, volume, and trigger single note, that blue color. I've also made the font style italic. The next element I will go over is the slider. You can see here in my HTML document, before any slider I've put in, I've done div ID equals quotation, slider, quotation, and then the ending tag. This gives the slider the class slider, and I've done this to both because I want them to be styled the same way. So then in my CSS document, I have hashtag slider, and then I'm able to control parameters using this. I can control the position, the width, the height, different padding, a border radius. This is what gives a rounded look on the corners. So if I put 0, it's going to change these into squares. You're also able to create a shadow. You can see a slight shadow. This is great for accessibility, allowing people to be able to see things better. And then there's also a background color. The next element that I'll quickly go over is the button. I've also given this div ID equals button, and it also has a class called my button. So if I go in, you can see I've done .my button, and I've changed things like the background color and the border color. You can see I can make the border a little bit bigger. I'm going to take it back down now to what I had it at before. Again, the border radius, you can create curved edges. So if I take this down to 0, you're going to see it turns into a square. And if I bring it to 30, it turns into that oval shape. You're also able to add text in the center, control the font size, and then transition duration is going to give you the ability to control the hover and how long that takes for it to change colors. And this parameter is called myButton.hover, and here I've given it this gray, and that allows the button to change colors when you put your mouse over it. So this has been a very quick and fast introduction to the HTML and CSS in these files. You are able to download these files on the accompanying blog post, which is linked in the description of this video. The accompanying blog post is linked in the description below and will give you some of the code snippets that I used in today's video, as well as some more information on pure data and the topics we discussed today. Thanks so much for watching.